What is up, everybody? This is Colin, and welcome back to another episode of the Aligned Lifestyle Podcast. So, as I'm recording this podcast, I actually recorded this podcast a few days ago. Today is Monday. I originally recorded what I'm going to be talking about again today on Friday. As I've had some space to think about it and really process what I talked about on Friday and what I'm going to be talking about today, there's a lot more clarity to it. And what I'm going to be diving into is the most powerful lesson, or maybe it's lessons, that I learned from the few days that I spent in Austin, Texas last week at the Strong Coach Summit. I'm actually wearing the shirt. Funny story about wearing the shirt right now. I had a whiter shirt on and it was extremely bright and it was not working for the video. So for those of you guys listening, I'm wearing a different shirt than I originally planned on. But back to what I was saying is the Strong Coach Summit. To give some background on that, the Strong Coach is the company that I receive coaching from as it relates to personal development and business. And I am actually part of what's called the Strong Coach Academy, which is like their mastermind group. And it's a smaller group of other coaches like myself, maybe like 20 to 25 of us. And there's a total of us, 15 of us in Austin, Texas last week at the Strong Coach Summit for us to gather with our coaches, with our other fellow coaches in the program and other experts to develop ourselves and develop our business. And I wanted to share the most powerful lessons that I took away from my time in Austin, Texas, and share it with you, what was original on Friday and today. And I'm excited to dive into it today because, like I mentioned, I have that much more clarity around what those lessons are and what they really mean. And when I recorded it on Friday, I know that I hit those lessons. With that being said, I really had this inclination and feeling that I didn't capture it in the way that I wanted to. And again, I could let go of that and just post it and roll forward with it. But I imagine this is going to be that much more beneficial with you. And as we get into diving into this as well, with the podcast, my intention is to do some solo casting and guest interviewing. And I've already put out 2 solo casts so far. And my intention is to alternate between solo cast and guest interview. But you guys are going to get another dose of solo cast today with my intention to put this out as episode number 3. So let's go ahead and dive into it. I spent a few days in Austin, Texas, surrounded with other coaches, like-minded individuals who are on their own journeys and building their coaching business. And it ranges from nutrition coaches, fitness coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, coaches for other entrepreneurs, leadership coaches. What other type of coaches am I leaving out? Abundance of different types of coaches who are on this journey to serve their clients and really create this impact on not just themselves, their community, but the world, and make it a better place. So it's great to get around those people, our coaches in particular, Mike Bledsoe, Jared Davis, Matt Shiver, and the people that put this on. Honestly, it was a first-class event. I was well taken care of, as well as everyone else, and it was phenomenal to set us up to just be there, learn, and develop ourselves as human beings and as coaches. And in those 4 days, we had quite a few different speakers that came in and presented and talked about business-related things. But if you're familiar with the self-employed space and being an entrepreneur, there's a great deal of personal development that can go into how you develop your business. And in my opinion, is a necessity. Is if you're going the entrepreneur or self-employed route and you are not working on your personal development, you are leaving behind a lot of potential and untapped potential in your business that can be taking you to the next level. And that's really what I'm going to be sharing with you today, is what stood out to me to take me to that next level. And you'll be surprised at really how simple it is. And remember that simple is effective. Okay. So back to the speakers, is we had 2 speakers in particular. One, his name was Ani Manian, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and the other was Jesse Elder. Now, both of these guys coach people who run businesses that are making the eight-figure range. So if you're not familiar with what 8 figures is, that is tens of millions of dollars, $10 million or more. And these are people that Ani and Jesse, who coach people who run businesses like this. And, for us coaches that are there, we're not at that level yet. And that's okay. But the simplicity and what they shared was so empowering and, for lack of better words, powerful. And again, simple is effective. And the main gist of what they both got to is be specific, narrow down so that way you can grow. When you narrow down and get more specific about who you are serving, what it is that you provide, and the result that you can get them, the more that you're going to be able to grow. And that's the gist of how I can summarize both of them. And I tell you what, when both of these guys, Ani and Jesse, were speaking, you go to a conference, if you have any familiarity with that, usually look around the room and people are taking notes and writing down. I tell you that when I looked around at one point in time in both of these talks that they were giving, no one was taking notes. Everybody was glued in, eye contact with them, and so engaged in what it is that they were talking about. Like, that's how powerful these talks that they were giving were, and how much they were connecting and resonating with us as coaches. And my goal today is to share how impactful and empowering it was for me with this message, and also give some insight how it can relate to you if you are not self-employed in entrepreneurial or business space, and how it applies to life. So let's dive in. Now, when, the best place to start is that, like I said, the idea of being specific and narrowing down. And what that meant for me, and as it relates to my business, is like getting super clear on who it is that I really serve, what I do, and the result that I provide for them. And for me, that was something going into that I knew I wanted to get some specificity and clarity on. So to know that people who are coaching those who are at the 8-figure mark with their business, that's what they're encouraging them to do, was just like mind-blowing to me, because it's so simple, and it almost is contradictory to what you would think, is that we often tie this idea, or we can often tie this idea to growth. And I know when I say we, I'm really saying me. I can often attach this idea of growth to doing more. But if you really want to grow and grow effectively, then you need to do less. And there was a specific phrase that Ani used that was multiplication by subtraction. Is that if you want to multiply the results that you're getting and the growth that you desire, then you need to subtract. You need to do less and get rid of the things that are more of distractions than anything else. And that was super powerful in and of itself. And that really helped from a business standpoint to declutter everything and really narrow in and hone in on this one specific thing and this one specific clientele that I want to serve. And for me to provide more clarity on that, and what I really gained is that going into this summit, I knew I wanted to serve husbands and fathers. And by the time I'm leaving the summit, I'm realizing that I'm a girl dad. And I'm thinking about my journey, my personal journey over the last couple years. And that involved not only me becoming a husband 3 years ago and transitioning into becoming a father 2 years ago, but more specifically, I'm a girl dad. And it's something that I personally feel I was meant to move forward into into that role in my life and have a daughter. And it's changed my life and opened up perspective in so many ways that I knew that I needed, but I didn't know how much I really needed. And even more specifically, that transition from working for someone to someone. So walking away from this and getting more narrow about who I serve is I want to serve more specifically dads. And if I can be even more specific, girl dads who are self-employed, entrepreneurs that are making that transition or making a transition in their career, in their life, because that's what I did. That was my personal journey. And I have a process that I know works to make sure that if you are doing that, because a big fear is to sacrifice time with your family. creating this lifestyle that creates freedom. You can love yourself and prioritize time for yourself and have time for your family, your wife and kids. And that's something that I've created a formula. I've created a process that works for that. And I know it works because I'm living it. I have, even after this weekend, it's more profound, but I am so connected with myself, and I personally am so in love with who I am right now. And I know that's not normal for men to open up and say that, but that's the truth. And I understand that I can still not be where I want to be in life and enjoy it at the same time. And I found a process and a formula for that. Kind of gone off on a tangent with here, but that's how powerful that get narrow, get more specific to be able to grow, multiply by subtraction as I'm getting more clear and narrowing down on who it is that I serve. And I'm really passionate about serving those girl dads out there, being their lifestyle and health coach, especially for the self-employed, the entrepreneurs, or those that are making a transition in their career and want to continue growing without sacrificing time with their family. So that was one lesson there. Like I said at the beginning of this, it could be one lesson or lessons. Seems like we're going the multiple lessons route. But there really is one big lesson that I'm going to start diving into right now. And to an extent, both of these conversations, like I said, between Ani and Jesse were very similar, used different language to get the point across, but really it was so similar, and it's so great to have these back to back within a 24-hour period because it really hammered home that point. Right. And the main point that was just like like it got me right here in the heart, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was also so liberating at the same time, is that the terminology used, because this is business related as they're talking to us, is that you will not outsell your self-worth. And as I was doing this podcast episode on Friday, I didn't define self-worth. And this is one of the things that I was thinking about on how I can improve this episode and why I'm re-recording it. So I'm going to share my screen for those of you guys watching the YouTube video. For you guys listening, I'm going to read it off. And let's dive into what self-worth. So remember that what I was just sharing was that you're not going to outsell your self-worth. And how you can translate that outside of the business realm is that you will not outgrow your self-worth. Okay? So self-worth, a sense of one's own value as a human being. And then after that, let me read that again. Again, self-worth, a sense of one's own value as a human being. In other words, your self-esteem. And if we look up the definition of self-esteem, confidence in one's own worth or abilities, and then you can go even deeper, self-respect, is that in essence, is that you're not going to outgrow or outsell what you think you're worth. And the important thing, and I share how empowering and impactful this was for me, is that there needs to be separation between what you think you're worth and what you're selling or what you want to grow into. Is that you're limited, especially if you connect the two and you create this collapsed distinction between self-worth and what you're selling and self-worth and your growth. You're going to be limited by your self-worth. So this is encouragement. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here for a second. This is encouragement to number one, separate your self-worth from your growth. Okay. And number two is to start viewing more highly of yourself. Like, what is it that you really don't value who you are right now? You have everything that you need right now. When you detach yourself from your self-worth, that's not going to be your ceiling anymore. You're going to see the opportunities for you to grow, and that you're not fixed in this state. You're not fixed in the worth that you think you are worth, for lack of better words. You're not fixed there. When you open up that ceiling to your self-worth and detach it from your growth, you're opening up the opportunity for you to grow. Why? Because you become more present and you see what you already do have, and that you most likely, I would imagine, that you have what you want already. Maybe it's not at the exact scale that you want it, but you will get there in due time. Okay. And that's going to lead me into what my personal experience is with that. Okay. To bring that back is that you'll never outgrow your self worth. You'll never outsell your self worth. So for me, what really clicked for me is I came home on Wednesday. This was Sunday to Wednesday, the summit. These conversations happened on Monday and Tuesday. And on Wednesday, we did these things called hot seats, where each coach that was at the summit went up there in front of the group. And it's not like when the term hot seat is thought of, I imagine you're thinking of like being up on trial, right? In a way, it was like that, but it's fun. It was exhilarating. I was a little nervous before it, but it ended up being so insightful. Learn, and then the next day, have the other coaches provide feedback, insight to what you're thinking about your business, how you can take those next steps, and take the information from the summit and move yourself forward to where you really want to go. And when I came back, it's kind of like I was a little like, there's a lot of information, but I needed some downtime. And I knew that. And I gave myself that space. And one of my good buddies in the group itself, Matt Gallo, we connected on Thursday. And we connected on Friday, a time to get on and discuss our takeaways from that. And in this conversation is when all the things clicked for me. Is that going into the summit, my intention was to go there and get clarity, because I felt and I imagine that there was something out of alignment somewhere. Not sure where it was with my goals, what I wanted to do, what I was currently doing. And on top of that, I wanted to get clear on who I served and the result that I provided them, and I got that. And I left the summit thinking, okay, I got a lot of clarity, but I feel like there's still something the shift isn't there yet. And this conversation with my buddy Matt Gallo really helped me out. And I appreciate him for giving the space and asking the questions and encouraging me to dig deeper with it. And that statement of you'll never outgrow your self-worth, or you'll never outsell your self-worth, was something that I knew was important, but I didn't understand the meaning to it. And in talking with Matt, that lack of alignment was me not surrendering to the process. And that's what I ultimately learned, is surrender to the process. Life will unfold in the way that I don't want to say needs to unfold, that it's supposed to unfold for you. And for me in particular, is that I was trying to be too controlling. I was trying to create all my success in such a short period of time. And I was wondering why it wasn't happening, why I wasn't getting the momentum. I was creating momentum here and there, and I'd burn out. And it comes back to this idea of, number one, I didn't trust myself. There wasn't enough trust there. And that ties into the self-worth piece. Is that when it comes to that self-worth, that was my ceiling. That is my ceiling. I've created a ceiling with my self-worth because I've attached it to the meaning of the growth of my business, the growth of myself. And I'm not going to outgrow that ceiling. And in talking with Matt, what I realized in sharing my journey is that I've been holding back in sharing my journey, especially over the last couple of years and really this last year of 2022. There's a lot of things that, for lack of better words, I'm not proud of. I wasn't showing up in the way that I wanted to, ways that, were hurtful to my wife, and really not ways that she desired for me to show up, that she felt loved, supported. Same thing with my daughter. And this is me also being rather harsh, self-critical, is that I always want to be better. I was recording on my phone. Sorry. It closed on me. So let me go ahead and put that down here. Is that, what this ultimately led to, and why my business in particular and my ability to grow my audience is not happening in the way that I thought it should. One, I was trying to be too controlling and forcing it. And number two is it comes down to that self-worth piece. And what I was attaching my self-worth to was not with anything with myself. It had everything to do with where my business was at, my relationship with my wife, what I imagined her feelings were towards me. Same thing with my daughter, is that I was putting all my eggs in the basket of grow the business, grow the business, grow the business. And what I was attaching the meaning to is that my wife will love me more when my business is at a certain place financially. And that is so far from the truth. And I will tell you it is, because it's from literally the words from her mouth is, I don't care how much money you make. I don't. This is her talking to me. Because I would often stress and go to her about it. And she would tell me and remind me that I don't care how much money you're making. I just want you to be happy. I just want you to be nice. I just want you to be present. But to me, in my mind, I was connecting. If I get my business to this certain place, and more specifically, this certain place financially, then my wife will love me. And I was trying to force it. It was so unnatural, inauthentic, all because I thought I needed to make a certain amount of money, bring in enough revenue with my business, and then my wife will love me. My wife will love me now for who I am. When I show up as the husband that I know I want to be, and the husband that she deserves and desires. And that's how it relates to my role as husband. Number two is my role as father. Is that in my head, the dialogue was, I will show up as the father that I want to be when I get my business to a certain point financially. And that is so stupid. You know, like I can laugh at it now. It's just like, to have that realization is in this conversation with Matt, like I was just spitting it out, is that, yeah, no wonder my business is not growing. I'm trying to force it, trying to control everything, to control all the outcomes. And in the process, I'm not coming across the way that I want to. I'm not showing up authentically. I'm not sharing the real journey. And I'm out of alignment there. That's where the miss or lack of alignment was. It wasn't in my goals. Maybe it's in my goals somewhere. It's just how I'm showing up, how I'm being, my presence. My presence is in alignment. I'm not being present as a husband and as a father. And because my business was not growing, I was attaching my self-worth to the growth of my business. So when my business isn't growing, my self-worth is low. And vice versa. Because my business is not growing, my self-worth is low. And that's also a reason why my business is not growing. So, you know, to really summarize this is like that quote of, you'll never outgrow your self-worth. You'll never outsell your self-worth. It resonated with me and it was powerful. But it really became powerful 2 days after when I connected those dots. And I was really curious about how I was going to take those next steps with my business and where this growth was going to come from. The first step is to detach my self-worth from my business, the love of my wife from my business, my ability to show up as a father, to detach that from the growth and place that my business is at. Because a lack of alignment there, and why, and what I imagine how my business will really grow, is I was prioritizing my business before being a husband and father with the best intentions, but yet subconsciously. Like I was doing it intentionally without really thinking about it, without thinking about it in that way. And that's what became apparent to me after the summit. So I share this to you because, number one, your view of what you're worth does not need to be attached to anything else. You are not your emotions. You are not your business. You are not your career. You are not the money in your bank account. You are you. And just be yourself. Show up authentically. Be present. Bring your energy, whatever that may be. and show up that way first and foremost. And for me, this season of where I'm at, of course, I want my business to grow. And now that I see more clearly that my desire for my business to grow and the alignment that I'm looking for will come when I surrender to the process. And by surrendering to the process, to show up as a husband and father first. Prioritize those things. Make sure that my wife is taken care of, that my daughter is taken care of. Number one, because that's important to me. When I list out the prioritization of my roles, just looking at the top three, number one is husband. Number two is father. And then number three is coach, self-employed, entrepreneur. And I've been showing up with that coach, the self-employed, as number one, and putting my wife and daughter on the back seat relative to that. No wonder I'm not growing. No wonder my business is not growing. I'm out of alignment. I'm prioritizing the wrong things and I'm trying to force it, trying to make it happen. Yes, you need to take action, but surrender to the process. And really, when it comes down to the second part of surrender to the process, because I trust me, I wasn't trusting myself. I wasn't surrendering to the process because I didn't trust myself. Not trusting myself relates to self-worth. And that's how all this comes together, is that my business has a ceiling with my self-worth because I've attached it to my business. My wife's love to my business, my ability to show up as a father to where my business is at. Not anything else. My business is actually successful in my ability to connect with my clients, serve them, get them to where they want to be, and show up for them. I'm attaching it to the financial number to my business because I have goals of where I want that to be, and I'm not there yet. And this is my opportunity. This is my invitation to myself to slow down right now, connect with myself, love myself. To love me, to trust me, and to ultimately surrender to the process and show up as the husband and father that I want to be and that I can be, and that the husband that my wife desires and deserves, and the dad that my daughter desires and deserves. That's living in alignment for me. And by doing that, imagine on the other side of that is the growth that I desire personally and professionally. So that is the big one lesson takeaway. There's a lot of facets to it, but detach your self-worth from your growth. Because when you attach that, you're setting a ceiling to it. You are worthy. I am worthy. So this is my invitation to you at the end of this episode. If you find yourself working so hard and not showing up as the husband that you want to be and the father that you want to be and can be, you may be living out of alignment, and you may be prioritizing your career, your business over your relationship with your wife, your marriage, and over the relationship with your kids. And I encourage you to slow down, take a step back, and start living in alignment and prioritize your marriage and the relationship with your kids. The growth that you desire, will be on the other side of that. That's what I'm committed to doing right now. And I had a beautiful opportunity to do that today and over the last few days. And I'm still learning. There's opportunity for me to surrender to the process and trust myself. Lean into that. I can do it. I'm confident. And with that being said, I am super excited for the opportunities that lie ahead with my business and the growth that I know is possible. And I'm super excited to show up as the husband and father that I know I can be and that I want to be. And I encourage you to do the same. Even if you think that you are showing up in a way, I imagine there's more that you can do to show up in more alignment. And I encourage you to take a moment to think about that today. And that maybe it's just subconscious like it was for me. And that you're attaching your growth to the meaning of how much your wife loves you and your ability to show up as a father. And I encourage you to look deeper and look at how you love yourself. And if you think you're worthy, and remind yourself that you are worthy. And I invite you at this moment to join me, take a breath. We're going to say, I am worthy, and then take another breath. All right? I am worthy. Take a moment, take in the feels, what you notice in your body. For me, I'm relaxed, I'm present, and I feel this connectedness to myself. And you can feel that whenever you want. Okay. I enjoyed that. I was hesitant coming into a recording, but I knew there's more clarity that I can provide. Having a couple more days to let this soak in. With that being said, I am pumped about the podcast, getting back, sharing more of my journey with you guys and showing up more authentically, being open, being vulnerable with you guys as it relates to the podcast, but even more so Instagram, and really letting you in on more vulnerable stories with myself and what my experience has been like, and allowing and opening up the invitation for you guys to really get to know me, to know, like, and trust me. That's my mission, along with showing up authentically and showing up as a husband and father. So we're going to wrap it up there. If you guys have any thoughts, any questions about this episode, if it got you thinking about anything, I encourage you to message me on Instagram at Colin_Meeves. Remember, it's Colin with 2 L's, and then the last name is spelled M-E-E, V as in Victor, E-S. Shoot me a message on Instagram. I'd love to chat it up with you. And with that being said, I do have a 90-day program called Build Your Momentum. And that process that I was mentioning to you that I've come up with over the last couple of years is exactly what I do in that 90-day program with my clients. And they're seeing tremendous results as it comes to time for themselves and doing things that they enjoy, as well as time for their family and showing up as a family man and being family centered in that process. So if that's something that you think that you want to spend more time with your kids, with your wife, that you feel overwhelmed, not having enough time for yourself in the process, I can help you out with that in the 90-day Build Your Momentum program and get you dialed in so you can double the time with your family while growing yourself and your career. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and begin to sign off here. If you want to follow me on Instagram, again, at Colin_Meeves. I do have, or you do have the ability to reach out via email if that's your preferred way, Colin@CoachColin.com. And whatever platform you're listening to this on, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, subscribe, follow, whatever it may be on that channel. And if you want to take this relationship even further, love when I say that, please feel free to leave a review, a rating. I'd love to hear feedback from you guys. And if you're enjoying the show, let me know that you're enjoying the show as well. So remember, today is a great day to take some action and live an aligned lifestyle. Take care. See you on the next one.